Have you ever wondered how a man can completely transform his life, from being a deceiver to becoming the patriarch of an entire nation? Today, we will dive into the fascinating story of Jacob, a man who wrestled with God and men and prevailed. But what was the price of that victory? How did his choices shape not only his own destiny, but also the destiny of future generations? If you think you know the story of Jacob, get ready to be surprised. Stay with us and discover the secrets, inner struggles, and twists that mark the journey of this complex and human figure in the Bible. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you won't miss other videos like this one. We post videos almost every day. Let's begin. My name is Jacob, and my life has been a journey of deception and redemption, of struggles and blessings. Let me tell you about the night I wrestled with God. Imagine darkness engulfing everything around, the sound of the Jabbok River murmuring nearby, and me alone facing my deepest fears. It was then that I felt a presence, a supernatural force that grabbed me. We wrestled all night, body to body, spirit against spirit. When dawn finally broke, I was changed forever, both in body and soul. But that night was just one chapter in my long and complicated story. To understand how I got there and what happened afterward, we need to go back to the beginning. I was born into a family destined for greatness, though I didn't know it at the time. My grandfather was the great Abraham, the man whom God called to found a new nation. My father was Isaac, the son of the promise. And me, I was the second-born, the younger twin, born grasping the heel of my brother Esau. From the start, there was tension. Esau was our father's favorite, a skilled hunter, a man of the field. I preferred staying close to home, learning to cook and tend the flocks. Our mother, Rebecca, favored me. Perhaps she saw something in me that others didn't, or perhaps she simply liked the son who stayed close. Esau and I grew up as different as night and day. He was impulsive and rash, while I was calculating and patient. One day, when we were young men, Esau came back from a hunt, famished and exhausted. I was cooking a lentil stew, and the aroma must have been irresistible to him. "Give me some of that red stew," he demanded, practically drooling. I saw my chance and seized it. "Sell me your birthright," I said. Esau laughed, thinking I was joking, but I was deadly serious. The birthright was everything in those days. It meant a double portion of the inheritance and the right to lead the family. It was the blessing that passed from father to eldest son. "I'm starving," Esau complained. "What good is the birthright to me?" "Swear to me," I insisted. And he did, trading his future for a bowl of food. In that moment, I felt a mixture of triumph and shame. I had gotten what I wanted, but at what cost? This wouldn't be the last time my ambition clashed with my conscience. Years passed, and the day came when our father, Isaac, was old and nearly blind. He called Esau and asked him to hunt and prepare his favorite meal. Afterward, he would give Esau the formal blessing of the firstborn. My mother heard everything and rushed to tell me. "Jacob," she said, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of fear and determination, "you must act now. Go, get 2 young goats from the flock. I will prepare them the way your father likes. You will bring the food to him and receive the blessing in Esau's place." I hesitated. "But mother, Esau is hairy and I have smooth skin. What if my father touches me? He'll know I'm an imposter and curse me instead of blessing me." Rebecca was unfazed. "Let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do as I say." And so, with a heavy heart and trembling hands, I put on Esau's clothes and covered my arms and neck with goat skins. I took the food my mother had prepared and entered my father's tent. "My father!" I called, trying to make my voice sound deeper. Isaac stirred in his bed. "Who are you, my son?" "I am Esau, your firstborn," I lied, the words burning in my throat. "I have done as you asked. Please sit and eat of my game, so you may bless me." My father seemed suspicious. "How did you find the game so quickly?" "The Lord your God brought it to me," I replied, mixing truth with lies. Isaac called me closer. "Come near, my son, so I can touch you and see if you are really my son Esau." I approached, my heart pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. His wrinkled hands touched my arms covered in goatskin. "The voice is Jacob's," he murmured, "but the hands are Esau's." Still, he wasn't fully convinced. "Are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "I am," I replied, the lie becoming easier with each repetition. Finally satisfied, my father ate the meal I brought. Then he called me closer again. "Come here, my son, and kiss me." I leaned in and kissed him, and he inhaled deeply the scent of Esau's clothes I wore. Then, with words that would echo through the generations, he blessed me. "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." I had barely left my father's tent when Esau returned from his hunt. The scene that followed is etched in my memory. The shock and pain on my brother's face, his anguished cries when he realized what I had done, his desperate plea for a blessing, any blessing, from our father. Isaac trembled violently when he realized what had happened, but the blessing had been given and could not be taken back. For Esau, he could only offer a lesser blessing, one that spoke of servitude and eventual freedom. The hatred in Esau's eyes shook me to my core. "The days of mourning for my father are near," he murmured. "Then I will kill my brother Jacob." Once again, it was my mother who intervened. She sent me away to the house of her brother Laban in Haran. "Stay there until your brother's fury subsides," she said. "I will send for you when it is safe to return." And so I left, leaving behind everything I knew, carrying the weight of my actions and the uncertainty of my future. The journey to Haran was long and lonely. One night, exhausted and heavy-hearted, I fell asleep with my head on a stone. That night, I had a dream that would change my life. I saw a ladder extending from the earth to heaven, with God's angels ascending and descending on it. At the top of the ladder stood the Lord himself. He spoke to me. "I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham and the God of your father Isaac. The land on which you are lying, I will give to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All people on earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I promised you." I awoke trembling, overcome with awe and reverence. "Surely the Lord is in this place, and I was not aware of it," I whispered. I named that place Bethel, which means house of God, and made a vow, if God protected me and brought me back safely, he would be my God, and I would give him 1/10 of everything he gave me. With this promise in my heart, I continued my journey to Haran. When I arrived, I found shepherds by the well and asked about my uncle Laban. As we talked, a beautiful young woman approached with her flock. It was Rachel, Laban's daughter. My heart leaped when I saw her. I helped her water her sheep, and, overcome with emotion, I kissed her and wept with joy. I explained who I was, and she ran to tell her father. Laban welcomed me warmly into his home. After a month, he said to me, "Just because you are my relative, should you work for me for nothing? Tell me what your wages should be." Now Laban had 2 daughters. Leah, the older, had delicate eyes, but Rachel, the younger, was beautiful in form and face. I had fallen in love with Rachel and said, "I will work for you for 7 years in exchange for your younger daughter, Rachel." Laban agreed, and those 7 years seemed like only a few days because of my love for Rachel. But when the time for the wedding came, Laban deceived me. He placed Leah in my bridal tent instead of Rachel. In the morning, when I discovered the deception, I confronted Laban in anger. He calmly replied, "It is not our custom to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. Finish this week of wedding celebrations with Leah, and we will also give you Rachel in exchange for another 7 years of work." I swallowed my anger and agreed. A week later, I also married Rachel, and I worked another 7 years for Laban. Ironically, I, who had deceived my father and brother, was now deceived by my father-in-law. The years that followed were full of complications and rivalries. Leah gave birth to 4 sons in quick succession: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Rachel, on the other hand, was barren and became jealous of her sister. "Give me children or I will die," she cried out to me one day. I was frustrated. "Am I in the place of God who has kept you from having children?" I responded. Desperate, Rachel gave me her servant Bilhah as a concubine, saying, "Sleep with her so that she may bear children on my behalf, and through her I too may have children." Bilhah gave birth to 2 sons, Dan and Naphtali. Not wanting to be outdone, Leah also gave me her servant Zilpah, who gave birth to Gad and Asher. The rivalry between the sisters continued. Once, Reuben found some mandrakes in the field and brought them to Leah. Rachel asked for them, and Leah bitterly replied, "Wasn't it enough that you took my husband? Will you take my son's mandrakes too?" "Very well," said Rachel, "he can sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." So when I returned from the fields that night, Leah came out to meet me. "You must sleep with me," she said. "I hired you with my son's mandrakes." I stayed with her that night, and God heard her. She conceived and gave birth to a 5th son, Issachar. Later she bore Zebulun and a daughter named Dinah. Finally, God remembered Rachel. She conceived and gave birth to a son, Joseph. With his birth, I felt it was time to return to my homeland. I said to Laban, "Send me on my way so I can go back to my own land. Give me my wives and children, for whom I have worked for you, and I will go." But Laban didn't want to let me go. "I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you," he said. "Name your wages, and I will pay them." I proposed a deal. I would take all the speckled, spotted, or dark sheep and goats, and all the dark-colored lambs. This sounded good to Laban, but he was crafty. That very day, he removed all the animals that matched my description and gave them to his sons to tend, placing a 3-day journey between us. But I had some tricks too. I took fresh branches and made stripes on them, removing some of the bark. I placed these branches in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink. When the animals mated in front of the branches, they bore young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Over the years, my flocks grew enormously while Laban's diminished. This caused resentment among Laban's sons, and I noticed that my father-in-law's attitude toward me had changed. Then the Lord said to me, "Return to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I will be with you." I called Rachel and Leah to the field where my flocks were and explained the situation. They agreed to leave, saying, "Do we still have any share in the inheritance of our father's house? He treats us as foreigners. He sold us and has used what was paid for us. Surely all the wealth that God took from our father belongs to us and to our children. So, do everything God has told you." Thus, taking advantage of a moment when Laban was busy shearing his sheep, I secretly left with my family and all my belongings. Rachel, without my knowledge, stole her father's household gods. 3 days later, Laban was informed of our escape. He pursued us for 7 days until he caught up with us in the mountains of Gilead. But God came to him in a dream, warning him, "Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad." When Laban caught up with us, he complained, "What have you done? You deceived me and carried off my daughters like captives in war. Why did you run away secretly and deceive me? Why didn't you tell me so I could send you away with joy and singing, with tambourines and harps? You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye. You have acted foolishly. I have the power to harm you, but the God of your father said to me last night, 'Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad.' Now you have gone because you long to return to your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" I didn't know that Rachel had stolen the idols, so I confidently replied, "I was afraid because I thought you might take your daughters away from me by force. But if you find anyone who has your gods, that person shall not live." in the presence of our relatives, see for yourself whether there is anything of yours here with me, and if so, take it." Laban searched everywhere, but did not find the idols. Rachel had hidden them in the saddle of her camel and was sitting on them. She said to her father, "Don't be angry, my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence. I'm having my period." So he searched but could not find the household gods. Then I became angry and rebuked Laban. "What is my crime? What sin have I committed that you pursue me so fiercely? Now that you have searched through all my goods, what have you found that belongs to your house? Put it here in front of your relatives and mine, and let them judge between the two of us." I continued, venting years of frustration. "I have been with you for 20 years now. Your sheep and goats have not miscarried, nor have I eaten rams from your flocks. I did not bring you animals torn by wild beasts. I bore the loss myself, and you demanded payment from me for whatever was stolen by day or night. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime, and the cold at night, and sleep fled from my eyes. Finally, I proposed a peace covenant between us. I took a stone and set it up as a pillar. I said to my relatives, 'Gather some stones.' So we took them and ate there by the heap of stones. Laban called that place Jegar Sahadutha, and I called it Gilead. Laban said, 'This heap is a witness between you and me today.' That is why it was called Gilead. It was also called Mizpah, because he said, 'May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are away from each other. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you take any wives besides my daughters, even though no one is with us, remember that God is a witness between you and me.' The next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and daughters, blessed them, and returned home. And I continued on my way. As I drew closer to my homeland, fear of Esau began to grow in my heart. I sent messengers ahead to announce my arrival and seek his goodwill. But they returned with alarming news. Esau was coming to meet me with 400 men. Terrified, I divided my group into 2 camps, thinking, if Esau comes and attacks one group, the other group may escape. Then I prayed fervently, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, who said to me, 'Go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper.' I am unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed the Jordan, but now I have become 2 camps. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, for I am afraid he will come and attack me, and also the mothers with their children. But you have said, 'I will surely make you prosper, and will make your descendants like the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted.' That night I selected a gift for Esau, 200 female goats and 20 male goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, and 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. I placed each herd in the care of a servant and instructed them, 'Go ahead of me and keep some distance between the herds.' I instructed the first servant, 'When my brother Esau meets you and asks, "To whom do you belong? And where are you going? And who owns all these animals in front of you?" then you are to say, "They belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us." I also instructed the second, the third, and all the others who followed the herds, "You are to say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, 'Your servant Jacob is coming behind us.' For I thought, I will pacify him with these gifts I am sending on ahead. Later, when I see him, perhaps he will receive me." So the gifts went on ahead of me, but I myself spent the night in the camp. That night I got up, took my 2 wives, my 2 female servants, and my 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. I looked up, and there was Esau, coming with his 400 men. Fear gripped me, so I divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the 2 female servants. Strategically, I placed the female servants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. I myself went ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as I approached my brother. To my surprise, Esau ran to meet me and embraced me. He threw his arms around my neck and kissed me, and we wept, overwhelmed by the reunion. Then Esau looked up and saw the women and children and asked, "Who are these with you?" I replied, "They are the children God has graciously given to your servant." Then the maidservants and their children approached and bowed down. Next, Leah and her children came and did the same. Finally, Joseph and Rachel approached and bowed down as well. Esau, curious, asked about the hurt he had encountered along the way. I explained that it was a gift to win his favor. At first, he declined, saying he already had plenty, but I insisted, "No, please. If I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me so favorably." After much urging, Esau accepted the gift. He suggested we travel together, but I explained that I needed to go more slowly because of the children and the livestock. I promised to meet him in Seir. After we parted, I went to Sukkoth, where I built a house and shelters for the livestock. Then I safely arrived in Shechem in Canaan, where I bought a plot of land and built an altar, which I named El Elohe Israel. Unfortunately, our peace in Shechem did not last long. My daughter Dinah was violated by Shechem, the son of the local ruler. This caused great pain and outrage in our family. When I found out, I remained silent until my sons returned from the fields. Hamor, Shechem's father, came to propose a marriage and alliance between our people. However, my sons responded deceitfully, demanding that all the men of the town be circumcised. When the men of Shechem agreed and were recovering, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, attacked the city, killing all the men and plundering it. I was horrified by their actions and rebuked them, fearing the consequences. "You have brought trouble on me by making me obnoxious to the Canaanites and Perizzites who live in the land. We are few in number, and if they join forces against me and attack me, I and my household will be destroyed." After these events, God instructed me to go up to Bethel and settle there. I ordered my entire household to get rid of the foreign gods and purify themselves. At Bethel, I built an altar to God and once again received his blessing. He confirmed the name Israel to me and renewed his promises to me and my descendants. We left Bethel, and while still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty. As she labored in pain, the midwife said to her, "Don't be afraid, for you have another son." As she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Ben-Oni, but I called him Benjamin. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. Over her tomb I set up a pillar, and to this day that pillar marks Rachel's tomb. I moved on and pitched my tent beyond Migdal Eder. While I was living in that region, Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, my concubine, and I found out about it. I had 12 sons. The sons of Leah were Reuben, my firstborn, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servant, were Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's servant, were Gad and Asher. These were my sons, who were born to me in Paddan Aram. Years passed, and my son Joseph, whom I love more than the others, was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers. For many years I believed he was dead, torn apart by wild animals. My heart was broken, and I thought I would never recover from this loss. But God had other plans. Years later, when a great famine struck the land, I learned that there was food in Egypt. I sent my sons to buy grain, and to my surprise and joy, I discovered that Joseph was not only alive, but had become the governor of all Egypt. Joseph invited all of us to live in Egypt, where there would be plenty of food. I hesitated to leave the land God had promised to me and my ancestors, but God spoke to me in a night vision. "Jacob, Jacob." "Here I am," I replied. "I am God, the God of your father," he said. "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down to Egypt with you, and I will surely bring you back again, and Joseph's own hand will close your eyes." So I left Beersheba. My sons took me, along with their wives and children, in the carts Pharaoh had sent to transport us. They also took their livestock and the goods they had acquired in Canaan. Thus I went to Egypt with all my descendants. I took with me to Egypt my sons and grandsons, my daughters and granddaughters, all my offspring. When we arrived in Egypt, Joseph came to meet me in Goshen. He threw his arms around me and wept for a long time. I said to Joseph, "Now I am ready to die, since I have seen for myself that you are still alive." I lived in Egypt for 17 years. My total lifespan was 147 years. When the time came for me to die, I called for my son Joseph and said to him, "If I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my thigh and promise that you will show me kindness and faithfulness. Do not bury me in Egypt, but when I rest with my fathers, carry me out of Egypt and bury me where they are buried." "I will do as you say," he replied. "Swear to me," I said. Then Joseph swore to me, and I worshipped as I leaned on the top of my staff. Afterward, I blessed Joseph and his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, making them tribes of Israel. Then I called all my sons and prophesied over each of them, foretelling the future of their tribes. When I had finished giving instructions to my sons, I drew my feet up into the bed, breathed my last, and was gathered to my people. Joseph threw himself upon me, wept over me, and kissed me. Then Joseph directed the physicians in his service to embalm me, and they took 40 days, the time required for embalming. And the Egyptians mourned for me 70 days. When the days of mourning had passed, Joseph said to Pharaoh's court, "If I have found favor in your eyes, speak to Pharaoh for me, and tell him that my father made me swear an oath, saying, 'I'm near death. Bury me in the tomb I prepared for myself in the land of Canaan. Now let me go up to bury my father. Afterward, I will return.'" The Pharaoh said, "Go up and bury your father as he made you swear." So my son Joseph went up to bury me. All the Pharaoh's advisors, the palace officials, and all the authorities of Egypt accompanied him, along with Joseph's entire family, his brothers, and my family. They left only their children, their flocks, and their herds in Goshen. Chariots and horsemen also went with him. It was a great procession. When they reached the threshing floor of Atad near the Jordan, they made a great and solemn lamentation, and Joseph mourned for me 7 days. When the Canaanites who lived there saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, they said, "The Egyptians are making a great lamentation." Therefore, that place near the Jordan was called Abel Mizraim. So my sons did as I had commanded them. They brought me to Canaan and buried me in the cave of the field of Machpelah near Mamre, which Abraham had bought from Ephron the Hittite as a burial property, along with the field. After burying me, Joseph returned to Egypt with his brothers and all who had gone up with him to bury me. Thus ends my story, the story of Jacob, also called Israel, a story of deceit and redemption, of struggles and blessings. Through me, God fulfilled his promise to Abraham to make him a great nation. My 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel, and through my lineage, especially through Judah, the promised Messiah would come. My life has been a long and difficult journey, filled with ups and downs, but throughout it all, God has been with me, guiding me, protecting me, and fulfilling his promises. May my story serve as a testimony to God's faithfulness and a reminder that he can use even imperfect people like me to fulfill his divine purposes. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We post videos like this almost every day. See you soon.